Welcome everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of our Back to Basics series. Today, we're gonna be giving you one little bit of information you might be able to surprise most bike shop employees with, and also giving you some tips on how to set up your cleats and talking about clipless pedals. All right, so first off, let's start with that little tidbit that might impress some bike shop employees, because I've definitely gone into some shops to buy SPD cleats and even they weren't aware of this. There are a number of different pedals out on the market. Shimano SPD is probably one of the most common. Crank Brothers is going to be another very popular one. Today I also have a set of HT pedals here. Now, many brands who offer cleats and pedals will sell cleats that have different characteristics, performance, release angles, etc. Shimano actually has cleats that have a multi-angle release or a single angle release, and the difference can be drastic. If you're out on the trail and you go to pull up, or you're trying to, make an awkward move and pick that bike up over a feature, a rock, a downed log, the last thing you want to do is have that foot come flying out. So you want to make sure when you buy cleats, you get the cleat you want. And for me, I think that the single angle release, the SH51, is the way to go. And what that means, single angle release, it will only come out by twisting. You can twist inward if you've got really flexible ankles and you don't mind hitting your crank arms, but you're going to want to twist out instead of up at an angle, whatever, which a multi-angle release cleat will do. So now you got a tip to impress bike shop employees and maybe even your biggest bike nerd friends who didn't know Shimano had multi-angle and single angle release cleats. So now that you've selected the right cleat for your pedal and preferred feel, you're going to want to install those into your shoes. So here I have two sets of shoes. This one has the HT cleat in it. This has the Shimano SPD. The shoes that I'm wearing here also have a set of the H or SPD cleats in there as well. You can see there are some slight differences, so they're not really cross-compatible. You can't take an HT or a Crank Brothers and clip into another set of pedals. And a big reason for that is spring retention. These are kind of like a key, essentially. They clip into this pedal and they push back on a bar and spring, and that is what lets the cleat slide and lock into the pedal. So it's actually going to be under these lips, and that spring's going to pull back as you apply pressure, and then once the cleat is in, it will close back up over that cleat and hold it in. That's why you'll see that there are these lips under the cleat. So that spring mechanism opens and then captures that cleat, so you're attached to the pedal. Obviously, with different pedal designs, Crank Brothers excluded, but many others, you have adjustability on that retention. So HT's got a very cool plus or minus arrow up and down, so you can visually see how it tracks with more or less spring tension. The Shimano system here has a plus or minus, and you kind of turn it. You can't see a window that tells you where it's at, but you can go by feel or go all the way closed, back it off, or all the way open and close it as you get better and more comfortable, or depending on your needs. Here are two Shimano SPD pedals. You can see a pretty notable difference in the size of the cage. The mechanism's the same, they work the same, and there's even a more XC-minded Shimano SPD pedal, which really just has that cage and the spindle. There's no frame around it, and those are a lighter, more cross-country minded pedal. Crank Brothers Egg Beaters would be an example, and you compare that to the Mallet, which will be a much larger platform. And the idea there is that more weight-conscious cross-country guys who are keeping their feet in want a smaller pedal, lighter pedal, whereas an enduro, a downhiller, or just a recreational rider, they may have to unclip and want to have some platform to put that shoe on for navigating technical terrain, for some extra stability and comfort or confidence going around corners where they've maybe unclipped and haven't put their foot back in yet. So there are some definite benefits. What's important here is that your cleat not be too recessed inside your shoe and that it not be protruding too far. Now, if you're walking around, you've probably heard those road riders or XC guys, they sound like tap dance shoes walking around. That's because those cleats are sticking out beyond the shoe. And what that means is that on a platform pedal like this, where you've got these traction pins or grub screws, you're kind of negating that whole platform because everything's resting on that extruded or protruded cleat rather. So here's an example of how that cleat sits just below the tread of the pedal. So that will allow me to contact that platform and those pins without making it too much of a reach for that cleat to actually grab onto the pedal. Whereas if I installed that spacer, this cleat would be protruding outside the tread of the shoe, which would make it harder to walk. It would be slippery on hard surfaces if I'm trying to do creek crossings, walking over logs, and it would mean that I'm only resting on that metal cleat when I'm standing on the pedal. When you go to reattach your cleat, there will be some side-to-side movement. There's a track you can see where this piece will sit inside. You've got obviously that beveled edge, which is going to hold the hardware, and from there you can slide it. And the reason that you want to do that is on your shoes, you know, spindle width, your feet, how fat your shoes are, you'll want to have that thing in a pretty neutral position. So you have some back and forth. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're clearing the shoe. Every different type of shoe's got a slightly different pattern underneath, but you'll want to put it in as natural of a position as possible. So what I would say is worthwhile is examining how you walk, how you stand naturally, right? Some people are a little more pigeon-toed, some walk dead straight. I have my toes out quite a bit. So if you look at my cleats on my shoes, you'll notice that they're kicked in pretty far, right? So, and even my left and right have a different cant to them very slightly because my left foot's in front and my right foot's in back. And because of that, if you imagine, you know, taking a stance, right? And you squat down with one foot in front, one in the back, that back foot's gonna kick out a little bit more. You know, some people may disagree and you'll wanna have it centered and balanced. I'm more of a downhill biased rider, so I wanna set my stuff up not to blow my knees out when I'm pedaling, but I wanna have a good stable position for when I'm descending that I don't feel like my feet are too dead straight. So when it comes to that cleat position, again, you want to evaluate your natural stance and walk. So I have my toes out a little bit, so when I stand, they're out. When I walk, they're out. Obviously, when I ride, I will also want them to be pointed out. I like to run my cleats pretty far back because farther back you run them, the less strain you're gonna have on your calves, on your ankles, the more of a stable platform you're gonna have. You won't have quite as much fatigue if you're standing on your tiptoes, for example, right? You know, a lot of sprinters in the road world or track guys will kind of put those up front because they're on the balls of their feet and they're sprinting for a sprint. A little more endurance minded, more stability. If you're thinking about a big compression where you're landing off of a drop, your axis point up here means a lot more energy is going to want to flex your ankle out versus if you move it back here, not so much. So I would definitely suggest running them farther back for the mountain bike application. It'll just give you more power, more stability, less fatigue. From there, you're going to want to snug the pedals down. Don't go crazy tight, but don't leave them too loose either because as you tighten these things down, right, they've got these knurled kind of spikes on the bottom, and what those are going to do is leave an imprint into the bottom of your shoe. And if you find out that you're in the wrong angle, which you probably will be the first time, if you crank those things down too much, you'll leave dimples and impressions on the bottom of that shoe, and it'll make it harder to micro adjust those cleats because they'll want to fall right back into those holes or dimples that you've already created. So you want to be tight enough to where when you test it and unclip, they don't move, but not so tight that you damage the shoe essentially. I would suggest hopping on the bike, riding around out front of your house, apartment, whatever it might be, seeing how it feels. And I would say put the seat up and go pedal. Drop the seat, stand up, do some pickups, little bunny hops, do some corners where you're leaning the bike over, back pedal, forward pedal, sit the seat back up again and pedal around, because you really want to see how it's going to feel for more than just 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm good, and crank it back down, right? Because chances are you're going to feel like you're great, and you're going to tighten it back down, and then you're going to be 1.5 miles into your first climb and be like, oh, my knee hurts, or I feel like my toe's too far in, this is not right. You're going to have to get off and make an adjustment again. And so the longer you can spend at home getting set up, the less likely you will be to have to make an adjustment on the trail and not do any damage to your knee. Well, folks, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that gave you some food for thought or some helpful tips along the way for your next set of clipless pedals, or if you're looking to get some new cleats or try something new. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to set stuff up. It is all personal preference, but I think there are definitely some do's and don'ts that could hopefully save you guys some injuries, some nagging pains, and just jumpstart that process for getting you set up a little bit quicker and easier. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you found any entertainment or value in this video. We would greatly appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you guys out there on the trails. Thanks for watching.